Hey guys, I just wanted to say thank you for using my creator code whenever you purchase any Sims 4 DLC on the EA app or thesims.com. I receive a 5% commission each time you use my code, which means you're directly supporting me as a creator. I know there are a lot of codes floating around out there, so I am very grateful that you've chosen me to support in this way. Thank you so much. Hey guys, it is MissSimReno. If you are returning to the channel, welcome back. And if you're brand new, I am very excited that you decided to join me here today for another speed build. And we are indeed using the new expansion, Businesses and Hobbies, building in the new world of Nordhaven. And we are doing, I don't know, is it fair to say like a more traditional build in this world, more in like the architectural styles and everything influenced by Amsterdam and Copenhagen and whatnot. And we're doing three little buildings here. I lost the word. I lost the word this morning as I do this voiceover. But yeah, we're doing three little buildings, all different colors, different windows and stuff. And I was just dying to use these brand new roof pieces that we got because let me just say, I was very intimidated, I think, by this building style. When we first started seeing trailers and things like that, I was like, oh God, I don't know if I'm going to be able to build in this style at all. And thankfully, at least in my opinion and in my experience in having done this build, those roof pieces make it so much easier. They make it so much easier because all I had to do was toss it on top of this nice little rectangle I built and it looked pretty decent, at least in my opinion. And I really liked this build. So basically, like I said, there are three buildings, maybe like 3.5, 3 1/3. Actually, there end up being like 3 1/3. And we're going to be talking about how this can work, okay? Because we're all learning so much about how these home businesses can work, what the limitations are, etc. So what I do is I make 3 1/3 buildings and there's one apartment on this lot as well. So I was thinking it was like 2 or 3 different businesses owned by one family. Now, what I do know is that your sim, like one sim can only own one small business. So it's one small business per sim. So technically, if you wanted this to run as 3 businesses, you would need 3, well, not even adults actually. Kids can own businesses, by the way. I learned that recently. But you would need at least 3 sims to be able to have 3 separate small businesses on this lot. But what you could also do, you could kind of get creative with things here. So what I ended up doing, I'll walk you through the businesses too. There's kind of like this little library or reading room. You could call it a bookshop, but I didn't make anything for sale there. I would say for the activity, I'd probably label it just as like read, because there's just like a read or read books activity. And I would make that for that space in particular. Then there's a little flower shop in the yellow building on the bottom floor. And then the red building is actually a cafe with a piano lofted space as well. So there's a handful of activities that you could designate here, right? You could do like drink coffee, eat food, stuff like that for the cafe. It could be perform and or listen to music or live music or something. That's one of the activities. I'm not 100% sure which one. For the flower shop, it could be buy items, but I believe you can also do flower arranging, and I added some tables to the center between the retail shelves. So your Sims could actually sit there and do some flower arranging, which I thought was really nice. And like I said, then in the little library bookshop, it's more of just like read books. Like those would be the options. Now, when I was thinking of this, I was thinking of it being owned by a couple. They didn't have any children or anything like that. It's not a roommate situation where there's like 3 or 4 adults in an apartment. I think it's a couple. And the way that I was thinking of having this function is that one business could be the cafe and the little library, whereas the flower arranging could be its own separate business. It could work like that, but what you could also do is it could just be one business in all of these separate buildings, and you could list all of the activities that you want them to do that's applicable to everything. Do you know what I mean? I feel like there's a lot of talking through this because there's so many ways that you can kind of finagle small businesses working in multiple capacities. But I will say that it could get a little bit dicey if you were to do that because technically speaking, if Sims were reading books in the library, they could take those books, walk over to the cafe, right? And then just leave them there. And it's going to require a lot of cleanup. And that might not be ideal. Do you know what I mean? And I think with where the piano is in the little cafe as well, it's not a separate space. So it's not designated for like a performer or an employee, which means that random Sims might play the play the piano if you designated like play instruments or play piano as an activity. So you'd want to be careful as to what activities you designate to be sure that you're not actually enticing customers to do particular things you don't want them to do. It's a little bit complicated, but at the same time, like I love the freedom because you can really create any business you want. If you get creative with some of the activities, you can make it work. It's really, really cool. So yeah, there are ways to make this work, even if you had just one Sim. Let's say you had a single Sim that lived in the apartment above the florist shop. You could still technically have all three of these buildings. I really can't speak today. All three of these buildings would be a single business if you wanted to. Just because they're in separate buildings and they are designated spaces, you could technically make them all the same business and just combine all the activities that you want them to do in these various spaces. It could get chaotic, like I mentioned. It could get a little bit messy, but it can technically work. From what I've tested and everything, it could technically work, which is really exciting. But I hope you all like this one. I was really excited about this. You know, my first build with this pack, I did do a pottery and tattoo kind of shop studio space, and I did it with just the new pack and base game, which actually, number one, actually was not as hard as I thought it was going to be. This pack really did allow me to use a majority of the items that came with it, along with base game, and I think it looked really nice. But it wasn't my favorite build. I was happy with how it came out because I was really worried that I wasn't going to be able to build something in this new world with kind of that mix of industrial and Scandinavian kind of contemporary look. But it came out really nicely. I just know that I missed a few details. Like one of you pointed out that I completely forgot. I knew this too. I must defend myself. Not really, it's not a defense, but I did know that you needed a chair at the pottery wheels to be able to use them. And as I was building, I just completely spaced on it and I didn't do it. And because I was restricting myself to just base game in the new pack, it wasn't super decorated. Like my dear friend, I say this because this build blew my freaking mind. My dear friend Rachel Pett, I talk about her all the freaking time, okay? She did a build recently that was, I think, 3 different businesses as well. She did it in San Myshuno. The level of detail and decoration that she was able to put into each of those spaces using all of the packs, like it was mind-blowing. So I was really excited to do this one and actually use all the packs. I did primarily focus on the new pack, of course, but it was really fun to explore how everything integrated with the new expansion. That's usually one of my favorite things to do. When we get a new game pack, expansion, stuff pack, kit, anything like that gives us build and buy, I'm really excited to see how it integrates with everything that already exists in the catalog. And I'd say that for the most part, it integrates really nicely. I think my only complaint, if you can even catalog it as a complaint, honestly, is are the retail shelves. Because they're a very specific style and they don't fit in with every build style, of course. And I wouldn't anticipate that every single build style would be able to be accommodated with new items, but they're just a very particular style. And I find that they could probably be a bit challenging to use in certain builds. Now, I do think, I'm not going to say I know, but I think you can use the retail shelving from Get to Work in any of these small business spaces, and those should work as well. I think there was a bug with them prior to launch day that was addressed in a patch, but I don't recall what it was. And I haven't tested anything myself pertaining to those shelves, but I think you can also use those shelves as retail shelves. So you have a little bit more flexibility there, but even those are very like contemporary, very clean. Some of them are very like medicinal and sanitary, you know, because Get to Work was a very specific pack as well with the active careers and the retail functionality. Clinical is the word I was looking for. Some of them are a bit clinical. So I don't know. I wish that what you could do, because with Get to Work, you can label any item for sale, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't done a retail lot with just Get to Work in a very long time, but I think you can just label things to sell, like furniture and stuff like that. But with a small business, you can't, which is a little bit frustrating. So the things that are on the shelves are the only things that your Sims will actually be able to sell to customers. And that's a bit frustrating for me. Like, I wish that there was more of that overlap with the Get to Work functionality and the way that I understand it, and the kind of newer extended functionalities of the small business gameplay that came with this expansion. So let me know what your thoughts are, because I'm like babbling. This has only been my second build with this bag, and I've done so much more exploration pertaining to gameplay and cross-pack functionality since that first build. And I just have I have a lot of thoughts, and I have a lot of opinions, and I have a lot of questions. And none of those things are bad, but definitely curious. Anyway, I talked through the entire little library bookshop place, and this is going to be the little cafe. I thought it was so cute. It was a tight squeeze to get all of this stuff in here, but I loved using this swatch of the new base game counters and cabinets we got, because I thought the blue matched really nicely with the door for this building. I really wanted it to match. And I added this new specialty coffee bar thing that we got with the new pack, as well as that little display case, which I believe was a pre-order incentive item. Since I did get my code from EA, it includes the pre-order incentive item, so I have that, but you can use any display case you'd like. And what I did is I did make an employees only area. It's a very, very teeny tiny, if you could even call it, kitchen, but there is a candy making machine back there, so you could make some sweet treats and things like that. I think I added a fridge. I think I did. I think I added a fridge, and then we have the stove and oven behind the counters here. So technically speaking, your Sims could also bake cakes and cupcakes and stuff like that and put them in that display case if you wanted them to do that. But I just really liked that option, aside from just the specialty coffee bar. If you had an additional employee, you could have the employee tending the counter while your Sim makes all of the other things to go in the display case to be set for sale. Or you could swap that. You could have an employee making all of those things while you tend the coffee bar. So that's an option. Oh, and a waffle maker. I added a waffle maker. I thought that was kind of fun from Home Chef Hustle. There we go. Thought that was kind of a nice little thing to add as well. Just trying to add some different details and smaller appliances to kind of think about what could be added to that display case if you wanted to kind of do that on the job. And I will say this, I didn't realize this until I finished the build. So maybe this actually does lend itself more towards being a single business with all of these various activities squished together, because the only bathroom available for customers is in the cafe. That's an oversight on my part, so sorry. If you want to add another bathroom, you're going to have to find a way to kind of squeeze it into these other businesses, but there's one bathroom. It's kind of embarrassing, but oh well. There's one bathroom. At least it's there, right? At least they're not just going to be peeing themselves all the time in your business because there's no bathroom. Though, to be fair, in some of my playtesting, there was a bathroom available in a build that I playtested recently, and the customers went to use the toilet. They sat there forever, mind you, which was concerning. And then they got up and waddled away as if they didn't use the bathroom. And then I had someone else pee in the bathroom, but not in the toilet. They just peed on the floor. And I was like, y'all, there's a bathroom right there. You were in it. You were inside the bathroom. The toilet was right there. You were sitting on it the other 5 seconds ago. They chose to just pee themselves or leave because they technically didn't use the toilet. So I don't know what that's about, but Sims will just piss in your business and then just walk away. So that's not great. Hope that gets fine-tuned in some capacity. It was not ideal. So just make sure that there's a bathroom available to maybe mitigate that. But anyway, the little piano loft is actually finished as well. And now we move on to the flower shop, which was the most challenging for me to furnish. So this front part is the retail space, and there are again some flower arranging tables down the center between all of these shelves. I just didn't know how to lay this out at all. I didn't know what color scheme. I wanted it to look a little bit greenhousey. I wanted it to be a little bit more colorful and cutesy. So I used this new wallpaper from the pack. I like some swatches of it, but this one's just very overwhelming to my eyeballs. but I stuck with it. I just stuck with it. I'm like, we're going to make this work. And I think I did. I think I did. I lined these walls with retail shelves and I added a bunch of plants from the decorations category because technically all of these will now be for sale, which I thought that was kind of fun. And what I end up doing is I do swap out a handful of them for some of the actual flower arrangements that your Sims can make with the flower arranging tables, because I did have the debug menu up and running. So some of these will be swapped out. I just picked them at random, to be frank. But I do also, again, I swap out these tables in the middle because I was going to make them just more displays for retail objects. But again, that functionality won't work that way. So I added the flower arranging tables here. And then behind like the greenhouse windows and stuff that I use from the Greenhouse Haven kit, you can see there's 2 flower arranging stations near the stairwell. That in my head would be designated as residential only or for employees only, because I wanted there to be some flower arranging stations for the owner or owners of this business to create new arrangements to sell as well, that weren't constantly going to be occupied by customers, right? Like that was the thought. So I wanted to separate that a little tiny bit. You'll also notice that I added a cash register in this particular business as well as the little library. That's purely for show. The cash registers are required for retail lots specific to get to work, but I thought for the sake of realism, I would add some cash registers to a handful of these spaces just to make them all look like separate businesses, because they can be separate businesses or they can just be all one. Again, it's totally up to you all and how you find the most efficient and fun way to play with a build like this, because there's just so many options. But I loved using this little divider type thing from Eco Lifestyle right at the end of the counter and adding those like trellises from high school years right in the entryway. I thought it was so fun. It brought in more greenery. It added some decoration. I really liked it. This was the most challenging space, like I mentioned, but it's very simple. The way that I decorated is actually pretty simple. And I just loved how it looked. I mean, y'all know me. I love adding plants to like any build that I do. This was just a huge excuse for me to use all of the plants everywhere. I also added a filing cabinet behind the counter there, and then we move on to this little space, which doesn't really have much, but then we go upstairs to the apartment, because these stairs, this is how you get up to the apartment, because it is a 2-story apartment. Actually, I used all 3 floors of this particular building. And the first space that we do work on is the combined kitchen, dining, and living space. Now it's a 1-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment. Actually, I was able to get in 2 bathrooms, surprisingly. So there's one on the first floor of this apartment and then one upstairs as well. And my initial thought, I didn't go too deep into like a backstory or anything like that for the Sims that might live here. But again, I was thinking it was a couple. So maybe one of them owns like the little library and cafe. Like they're really into baking and cooking and music and stuff. So, and reading. They're into a few things. And they own those 2 businesses, maybe as a combined business. And then the other Sim owns the flower shop. And I think that the Sim who owns the flower shop had the greatest influence on like the color scheme and decorations for the apartment, because I'm not going to say like an overabundance of plants, but there's a lot of just green everywhere, like the green tile that we have here from Base Game in the kitchen. And then I add just like a handful of plants in this space as well to really kind of tie that together. And I thought it looked really nice. It was tough. I'm not used to working in a really cramped space like this that has to serve so many different functions, if you will. I may have done it in like, I may do it in apartments, like actual apartments, but doing this in my own created apartment, I just like didn't even know where to start. I didn't know what the floor plan was going to be. I had no idea what I wanted this to look like, but it's a lot of greens, some yellows. We have different wood tones, but more of those like manila wood tones, and then some splashes of blue, which I thought was very uplifting. That's the word I'll use. I thought it was very uplifting. I thought it was very nice. And as always, this couch hates to see me coming because I use it all the time. And I absolutely used it in this build. And oh, I should probably say as a reminder, this is prior to the tool mod having been updated as well. So I don't do like any resizing of objects. One of the things I always do, if you watch a lot of my videos, you'll probably have noticed this already, but I typically rotate the pillows so they're kind of tilting backwards into the couch. To me, it just looks more realistic, because otherwise they're just like stick straight. And they're stick straight right now, and they were driving me a little bit crazy. They're driving me nuts because I didn't have the tool mod to be able to switch them around. And that is not a complaint. At the time of me recording this voiceover, actually, tool mod has been updated. Twisted Mexi, you're a rock star. Like, you're amazing. I personally have all the patience in the world. I'm just so grateful for you and your mods. And I'm just so glad that tool was updated because I cannot wait to get started and using it again. But anyway, this is going to be the bathroom downstairs. It is a very pale green. I used the herringbone tiles from Growing Together. And I had, of course, a plant and some little splashes of like gold and manila and stuff like that. And that's pretty much it. It's a bathroom. Bathrooms are boring to me. So if you find this exciting, I'm very happy for you. But boring to me. I went through it as fast as I possibly could. And then we go upstairs to the bedroom, the primary bedroom. There is another room up here too. So if you did want to have a family in this apartment, you could do it. I turned the quote unquote second bedroom into an office space because my thought was that the two Sims that live here are the business owners and they need a spot to like do their QuickBooks, maintain and check inventory, do some ordering, stuff like that. They need a designated space to really run their businesses and do all the back end stuff. So I turned it into an office and there are 2 desks with 2 computers there. Wanted to make sure they each had their own in theory since they were running separate businesses. But the bedroom was very simple. I used the new bed and a new wardrobe from the pack. Very plainly decorated, but I thought it was really pretty and calming. I also added a bonsai tree up on this landing space, which I thought was fun. I've been using that in more builds lately because I always forget about it. And then there's just the bathroom and like I said, the other office. The bathroom up here is pretty much identical to the one downstairs. Slightly different layout. Don't even know why I kept it in the footage in the first place because, again, I don't like bathrooms. They're boring. Typically, they're boring. My standard bathroom, pretty boring. You can agree with me. You can literally let me know. You could be like, yeah, April, they're usually pretty boring. You don't have to include them. But then I get people that are like, wait, where was the bathroom? And they see it in the screenshots. They're like, it wasn't in the filming or like the footage. So I end up just keeping it anyway. All right, we're almost at the end of the build. I'm just like blabbing at this point. This is the office space. Again, very plainly decorated. Not much going on here, but I hope you all enjoyed this one. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. I can't wait to hear how you may or may not be utilizing all the different possible activities and business opportunities with this lot. And I will catch you next time I post a video, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.